Hey there, welcome. My name is Lou Diamond, speaker, consultant, podcaster, and author of Speakeasy. You know, in the original Speakeasies, it was real important to stay very quiet, so the police couldn't hear where your clandestine special nightclub was. Well, here, at this Speakeasy, we encourage conversations. You see, I believe that every connection begins with a great conversation. In fact, at this establishment and in my book, Speakeasy, I've put together the tips, tricks, techniques, blends, mixtures, and concoctions that you need to make more of your conversations great. Whether you're a professional looking to grow your business, a leader looking to connect your people, or an individual looking to grow your own personal connections, the lessons you'll learn in Speakeasy will help you connect, engage, and win in all of your conversations.
The greatest trick the devil ever pulled was convincing the world that Lou Diamond didn't exist.
Would you like to learn from those that are taking their lives, their businesses, and their passions to the next level? Best-selling author of Speakeasy and master connector Lou Diamond is here to connect you to some of the most inspiring and amazing people on this planet. Get ready to thrive loud with Lou Diamond.
Standing at the front of the land, waiting for something I can't make out, but I wanna talk to you to pull you aside. I wanna ask you to come with me tonight.
Welcome everyone to another spectacular episode of Thrive Loud with Lou Diamond, connecting you to the most inspiring and amazing people that are thriving each and every day. I'm your host, Lou Diamond, and today on Thrive Loud, we have a seasoned high-tech and media executive with broad global experience, leading and driving information and strategy for startups, mid-sized companies, and large global Fortune 500 ones as well. He is the CEO of 1105 Media Incorporated, a PE-backed leading provider of B2B marketing, events, and media services, where he oversees a diverse portfolio of 5 companies that range from big data analytics training to lead gen across numerous industries. Thrive Loud listeners, today we are going to chase greatness as I bring you the author of the book, Chase Greatness, Rajeev Kapur. Rajeev, how are you today?
Lou, fantastic. Thank you very much. You said you wanted somebody exciting and inspiring on there. I'm like, well, you talking about me?
I certainly am, because let me make it clear, understanding the message in your career, what you're doing is definitely exciting because there's lots of people that want to hear more about you, learn about you, and tap into what this brilliance that you have going on. So you're in the right place. I checked it out. I did my math. I did my homework.
All right. Well, thank you. Listen, I'm proud to be here. Congrats on the success of Speakeasy. I look forward to learning more about that too at some point. So,
absolutely.
Thanks for having me.
Well, we're glad to have you here. And here's what we're going to do, Rajeev. I don't want to go all the way back to the womb. What I want to do is go back a little bit. I want to kind of understand how through your career in tech, the direction you took led you to starting 1105 Media and how that all came to be.
Wow, that's a great question. We could be here for a long time, a lot longer than the 20 minutes.
I'll make sure I'll make sure we're not.
So look, I think if you go back to my career, I think one thing, Lou, for me, I've always been a little bit of a risk taker. Okay. I've always that guy in my group of friends or family that was always willing to kind of go do something unique and different in my career. So for example, when I finished college, I moved to South Dakota. And, and I'm born and raised in Southern California. You're like, what the hell is a Southern California boy going to South Dakota? Well, do you remember Gateway 2000, the computer company?
I knew their head of marketing for a very good long time, the late, great Jim Taylor, who passed away several years ago. But yes, know them well.
So, I went out to South Dakota and I got a job as a 100% commission sales rep. And I did that for a couple of years. And from there, I decided, I don't want to live in South Dakota, Iowa anymore because it got way too cold for me. And the Southern California boy, where it's 72 degrees every day, I'm like, I got to get out of here because I wasn't having much of a social life either. And so thankfully I got recruited to Dell and I ended up going to Dell. And after I was there for a few months, got to meet Michael, and I talk about it in the book and the story and how that happened. And I became one of his first executive assistants, did that for a while. And then my career, I just kept growing within Dell. Eventually I was running the West Coast for Dell, just really, really large, like $1 billion plus business. And then Michael asked me to go to China. So my family and I moved to China, and then was there for a couple of years, and after that went to Singapore.
Wow.
Helped put all of the South Asia countries together. Second son was born there, and then decided, gee, you know what? I think it might be time to kind of focus on the family. And after doing that, after being the Singapore thing for a few years, decided to move back to Southern California. So here we are in beautiful, sunny Orange County, California. And I was president of an e-commerce IoT company called Smart Home.
Okay.
So go to smarthome.com, did that for a while. Was in a clean tech startup that actually got hit by the first big recession, the Great Recession.
Yeah.
And then from there was CEO of a pretty successful audio technology company that did pretty well. And then 1105 was an opportunity for something to where it was kind of a turnaround and putting it together and working with the PE partners. And so it's been a great ride. Been doing that and my year anniversary is coming up in November, and it's been fantastic. And I've got an amazing team of people, and they make me look good every day, and which you can probably tell on cameras, they're not easy to do. And so they are they're amazing, and I'm very blessed to have this amazing team. So that's how we got here, and I appreciate your time.
Well, let's make something clear to our listeners. This is one damn good-looking gentleman. So enough of this self-deprecating stuff, Rajeev. Okay, now I want to hit upon this though. I want to talk about 1105 and bringing all that tech experience and working the companies that you're in, having these different accumulated experiences over time. How did you dive in and understand that this was the niche that you wanted to focus on? Maybe share with the listeners, because B2B marketing and events and media services is a lot of different from the stuff that you had been doing before, is it not?
Yeah, totally, 100% different. And so that's interesting. So 1105, kind of prior to me kind of coming on board and doing all these things that we're doing now, there are portions of 1105 during my time at Dell where we were kind of customers of 1105. And so at least, different iterations of 1105. And 1105 eventually got put together through a roll-up strategy. And at the end of that roll-up strategy, that's kind of when they're like, all right, we could use somebody to kind of come and help take it to the next level after a few years. And so that's kind of when I kind of came on board. And for me, it was kind of a natural fit, because even though I had a lot of this IoT experience and hardware experience, software, server, enterprise experience, if you looked at 1105, where we really thrive on, it's big data analytics, it's data warehousing, it's all this technology stuff. I'm a technology geek. Then that's through our TD to Drive business. Our Converge business is all about the cloud. Yeah. We have an education technology group that's all about cloud and the latest technologies for education. We have an infrastructure group that focuses on, we have one brand in there called Security Today. Now that brand was primarily physical security, but we're doing more and more cyber now in that brand, for example. So the fact that I had the strong foundation of a technology background, being at Dell and Gateway prior, and then Smart Home and all that, I think was a natural for me to kind of do that. And I brought it from a different perspective. So the thing that I think that I brought a viewpoint from the customer. Mm-hmm. So it's like imagine if all of a sudden your customer becomes your boss. Oh yeah. Right. And so that's kind of what the viewpoint I brought. Right. And so that's what allowed I think us to kind of help the company grow and kind of get to the next level. And if you look at the way the company is set up, it was primarily a very strong print business when I kind of first got my hands involved with it. And we've been able to transition that to be events and digital. But then COVID happened. And, Lou, overnight, and I'm sure your listeners could probably attest to this, can you imagine the stress of waking up one morning and half your business disappearing at the snap of a finger? And that's what happened to us. We lost half our business overnight. It's like, there's that 24-hour window where you have a little bit of a pity party, and it's like, holy F word, what are we going to do, right? Because there was no case study for this. It was not like Harvard or Wharton or Yale or anybody, USC, where I did my master's, had a case study that said, oh, when you have a pandemic, this is what you do. So essentially, we had to create the case study that people will be studying 20, 30, 40, 50 years from now, right? Not just me, but all the companies out there, whether you're a restaurant, a bar, event company, whatever it might be, right? A hospital, we're now creating, we created a whole bunch of case studies for people to study to figure out how people survived and how they did. And look, we thrived. We lost our events business. And the reason why events are so important is we are primarily education and training conferences type of events.
Yeah.
And the beauty of an event model, Lou, is you get paid up front, right?
Oh,
and
yeah.
you don't have to pay your vendors, the hotel for 6 months. So you're sitting on a lot of that cash, and you got to float, and you got an amazing cash conversion cycle. So it's an amazing business model, right? It's a great cash flow business model, right? And then when that went away, our digital business became our primary business. And so, we did virtual events. We were one of the first companies to launch a virtual event within probably 3 weeks of the pandemic officially kind of shutting down the country.
Yeah.
We had 1,500 people on our first virtual event. And that all the credit goes to my team for figuring that out. And so it's been a heck of a ride the last 3 years. We've done really well. Events are now starting to come back a little bit, but we're really excited about the future.
Have in-person events started to come back? Have you started to see that pick up? Have you guys dove back into that space?
So there's two types of in-person events, right? So there's, like, for example, last night I went to a concert at the Hollywood Bowl. There was
who did you see?
Rufus Du Sol.
Oh, very cool. Awesome.
Yeah, they're amazing. And so there were 17,000 people in the Hollywood Bowl. Nobody wearing a mask,
right.
People having fun, right? You can go to Vegas tomorrow, and I was in Vegas 2 weeks ago for my birthday, and it was packed, right? You can go to a baseball playoffs are happening right now, NFL games are happening right now, they're packed. So those are events. But those are events were the first to come back. Our type of events, which are conferences, training, like those are the last ones to come back. So it's been probably just the last 90 days where we're seeing signs of life and things starting to come back in that space. We have 2 big Orlando events coming up, and right now, both one of the events might actually break a record for the most attendees, but it's been almost 3 years since we've been there. And so I'll give you an example. When the Omicron virus first hit in the first part of the year, back January, March timeframe, we had to cancel 2 events.
Oh, sucks. Like,
right?
Restart. Yeah.
Right, but you weren't canceling football games and basketball games and whatever, right? And in concerts and movies and all that stuff. But because we're corporate, right? Because it's like no one wants to send their employee because they have liability to get sick. People are not coming. Like, oh, just do it over Zoom. But thank God, I think there's a little bit of Zoom fatigue, even though you and I are doing this on Zoom. Yep. But there's a little bit of that Zoom fatigue building in. So hopefully, this momentum we have now going into our November, December events will carry into the first part of next year.
Yeah, I've been seeing it first and center, and we could talk about this later. It's definitely coming back, and because there's a craving for the business community to know how important it is. Because you're right, they're tired of doing the virtual piece, but also the reasons that you get together for those events. So much business gets done with the networking and the relationship and the connectivity and everything there. So, first of all, thank you for being that person who helps to put these things together as a speaker. And one of the things I always do whenever I end up at an event is I find the team, the ones who are producing it, and find it, because there's so much work that goes behind it. And that's actually what I was going to ask you from this aspect of all the aspects of what this company does. New appreciation for all the effort and things that they do at these events at your company.
Yeah, look, I mean, I am blessed to have the best events team, I think, in the industry. They're fantastic, and they're so resilient. They could have curled up and just and just kind of left the company, but they stuck with it, and I don't know if it was because I convinced them to stick with it or my wonderful charm here or whatever, but they stuck with it, and they've been, they should have demonstrated a lot of grit and a lot of resilience, and I have nothing but gratitude for them. And I'm lucky. I'm blessed. I know I mentioned this 3 or 4 times, but I'll tell you, Lou, I couldn't be doing what I'm doing today or as successful as my career has been if it wasn't for the people working for me, and that's who deserve all the gratitude and praise.
Chase greatness. Help the listeners understand. Obviously, this is a motto of yours, whether you go to your website, and it's also the name of your book. Talk about the impetus behind this and what it's all about.
So it's interesting. So when COVID hit, as we told, right, I mean, we took, as I mentioned earlier, we took a big hit. And I realized for the first time that, when you get on an airplane, what does the flight attendant say? You got to put on your own mask before you put on someone else's mask.
Yes, when the airbags, and in case of an emergency.
Yeah, and so we're in an emergency, right?
Right.
And so, what I realized is that I don't think I ever put on my mask first. And so I needed to put on my own mask first if I was going to be really valuable to my team and family and friends and whatever the case might be. And part of that came with me setting goals for myself and realizing that you're not promised tomorrow and that life is short and God knows what's going to happen with the next pandemic, and go out there and try to achieve the goals and dreams that you want to achieve. And then by doing that, you're going to love yourself a little bit more. And I don't want this to be all self-help, but you can be better off for everybody else around you. And so I had this idea to write Chase Greatness for a long time. And when COVID hit, I remember sitting in my office, and I had written the word great on my whiteboard. And I'm like, what does it mean to be great? And this is, I was going through my own little self journey here, trying to figure out how I did well with my career. I'm doing all right. I have two amazing sons and wife, and just everything's wonderful, and just, great dog, and just things are great. And so, but what does it mean for me to be personally great? And so how can I leave a legacy? And I sat there and I walked up to the whiteboard, and I erased the word great, and I wrote it vertically, right? Instead of horizontally. I wrote the word great, vertically.
Right.
And then I wrote gratitude, resilience, empathy, accountability, and trust.
I like it. I like it a lot.
Yeah. And so that spelled the word great. That was an acronym. And it sat there on my whiteboard for a couple of weeks. And then I walked up to the whiteboard and I erased the word trust and I replaced it with transparency. And in my mind, and what I thought is that, if I'm going to be trusting, if someone's going to be trusting me and I'm going to be trusting them, there has to be a transparent relationship before there's trust.
Yeah.
And so that's the word great. And so that's where Chase Greatness came from. It became a kind of like so then I took the words and I put them all in a circle, and I kind of made a little North Star drawing out of it. And that's in the book. And so that kind of became my little North Star for the book and for my life and kind of going forward, and what I'm trying to preach here is that those are the real 5 key areas that you want to really try to focus on in business and life to get to the next level. You got to focus on having a tremendous amount of gratitude for people around you. You have to show an incredible amount of resilience or grit or whatever you want to call it, because life's going to throw you a lot of curveball, man. And just like over the last couple of years, right? You have to have empathy for your people. And the empathy thing was really important because remember, I grew up in a time at Dell where, hey, you don't go talk to your boss unless you have 3 solutions. But guess what? When COVID happened, there was no solution. No one knew. So if I said, oh, don't come and talk to me until you have 3 solutions, no one would ever come and talk to me, right? So I realized I needed to have a lot more empathy in my body for my team and those around me. And then I needed to hold everybody accountable for really trying new things. And then just being really transparent with where we were. And that was a real kind of driving force behind being able to chase greatness. I think it's a good philosophy. And I think it's easy to understand.
Yeah.
It's easy, digestible. And I think it's something people should be able to go figure, to write on their own whiteboards. And hopefully that could be a North Star for them.
So I want to ask this question first, because as you said, it did hit me because we've grown up in the same corporate world and environment or business environment at a time. When did we make the transition? When has the transition slowly been ebbing and evolving to understanding the power of empathy in the workplace and the power of not just, coming up with 3 answers and, responding to somebody versus that interactive conversation that can take place in the business place? Where do you think, as a leader who's evolved with it over time and obviously grown up with it, led it, grew with it, succeeded with it, helped to be part of a new change with everything else, did it all start to come together? Where have you started to see that change across the businesses that you've been across, as you've been seeing how maybe those companies over the time have actually been chasing greatness?
Yeah, that's a great question. And so I remember one time when I was at Dell, Jack Welch came and talked to the management, talked to all the directors and VPs. And Jack Walsh.
Okay. Know him all too well.
Yeah, it's like it's kind of like the business hero for a lot of people, right? And so, what's interesting is I remember him talking about a time when he had to lay off a bunch of people at GE, and it was a time when they were, I think they were transitioning a lot of people out of the U.S. into India, and the whole outsourcing movement had started and all that, and he needed to have a lot of empathy for those people, and how to take care of those people. But what he said was, not only that, to figure out how to take care of the people that were leaving, I had to make sure that I was taking care of the mental health of the people that were still here, so they weren't scared and worried, oh, am I next? And so I remember him talking about how he tried to invest for every dollar he saved in doing these things, he tried to invest 10 cents back into the people. And that he would encourage his team to that's okay. People need to be able to vent. They need to be able to get it off their chest, so that's okay. Be open to that, right? And so I think that's kind of when it sort of started. And that's when the concept of servant leadership started taking off more. And hey, Lou, I work for you. What tools do you need? I'm here to support you, right? And so, and then we went through obviously Y2K and the dot-com bubble burst, 9/11. So when you start thinking about this generation that's coming up, the millennial generation, if you think about what they've gone through, right? It's a lot. They've probably gone through more than a lot of other generations, right? Yeah. They've gone through Y2K, dot-com bubble burst, 9/11, 2008, 2000, Great Recession, COVID, war, social justice challenges, whatever it might be, right? And I'm not going to get political, but there's some political challenges as well, right? And so if you think about what they've gone through, and they get accused for being quote unquote woke and all these things and all that, I'm like, man, you know what? This generation's gone through a lot. And so to me, and that's why in the book I talk about, even on the cover, right, enlightened leadership. And to me, this leadership concept called enlightened leadership is about saying, hey, Lou, not only as the CEO am I here to work for you, to take care of you while you're within the walls of my business, right? 9 to 5, Monday through Friday. What can I do to support you outside of the walls of the business? What can I do to help you in your life beyond the 9 to 5 that you're putting in here, right? And that's the idea. That's the concept of enlightened leadership. That's kind of the underlying foundation of being able to chase greatness. And so to me, I think it's the next step in evolution beyond servant leadership is this idea of enlightened leadership. And then from there, what I think is so important is the ability to be able to really retain people and to build a culture. Because I'll give you an example. Before COVID, turnover was costing US companies about $32 billion a year, according to Society of Human Resources Managers. During COVID, with the great resignation going on, that's 5x that. It's like $150 billion a year, right? It's costing US companies through turnover. So if you can create a better culture, if you can provide more enlightened leadership type opportunities, taking care of them beyond the walls of business, they'll stay. Right? If you can take a small percentage of your EBITDA, your profitability, invest it back into your company, you can retain those people. Like at 1105, our voluntary attrition, meaning people that have voluntarily left the company in the last year, we've only lost like two people. Two people voluntarily left. Now we've done a couple of restructuring and things like that, given where we were. But in terms of voluntarily, I'm resigning, I'm leaving, it's only been like 2 people in the last year in the middle of the Great Resignation. So the more I can bring that number down, the more we can maintain that, the better we're going to be. And that's the whole underlying foundation of Chase Greatness, which is enlightened leadership.
Is the message of Chase Greatness directed toward the existing leadership of the world today or for the future leaders of tomorrow?
That's a great question. And I don't want to cop out and say both, but actually, it's directed at, look, the current Gen X boomer CEO, I think the majority of them are not going to change their ways. They just are, just kind of, that's kind of how they grew. They feel like they've got it. I think the majority, I've talked to a lot of YPOers and EOers and a lot of other business leaders who actually have gotten the book, and it's, they love it. Like I had breakfast with a buddy of mine who bought the book, and he loved it so much. And he's my age, hard charging, type A CEO, and he fits that full Gen X type A, top down leadership style. Now it was eye-opening for me, and he ended up buying the book for his entire management team, and they're inviting me to come and speak at their management team here in a couple of weeks. And so I just think it's a little bit of a slow burn. And in terms of, I'll tell you, one of the things that I've also had is I had a lady reach out to me saying she got the book and she actually built a nursing practice, St. Louis. And so she is now buying the book and she's giving it to her kids and her kids and her grandkids.
Oh, ladies and gentlemen, that must have been the ambulance service that was coming after Rajeev there. We had some sirens in the background.
The beauty of doing these things remotely. Yeah.
Exactly. No, this is what we want. We want real life, real moments, real sounds, real noise. Rajeev, this is the question. The last one I'll ask on this topic, and then we'll dive into some more fun stuff. Or this is all fun stuff, but it's a good question. I ask this question of a lot of authors, and I want to see where this goes, Rajeev. You set out to write this book with an intended audience and intended purpose. But every author I've ever spoken to on this program and other podcasts as well, there's a happy accident or an unexpected gift that the author receives while putting the book together. Rajeev, what was the gift that you received from Chase Greatness and putting the word out there?
You know, Lou, I might be a little bit different because I wrote this book for my own mental health.
Okay.
And I figured if I liked it, then hopefully a few others like it. And if I could change the mind of one person, then I think I've done my job. Now, that's how I started writing the book. I think the gift it gave me is that you can do anything you set your mind to, because writing a book is not easy and it's really hard. And I ended up, it takes a village, and luckily I had a really great support from the publisher, and it really took a good village to kind of help me get across the finish line. And I always knew in my business life what I wanted to do, and I knew I'd be successful because I'm just built that way. But this was really more of a personal thing. And, a lot of times when you're the CEO of a business, you put your personal goals come second or third. And so this is one where I kind of put a personal goal up there, if not tied with my business goals, probably first, because I just really needed it for my own mental health, and so there's not a woe is me, oh my God, the CEO woe is me. I mean, look, I worked hard, I get paid well, and it's fine, it's great, but look, I still wanted to do something for my mental health and prove to myself I could do it. And so that's what it was. It's proving to myself I could do it.
I like it. I'd also say that I think you said something interesting earlier. While the ones that probably will take advantage of the lessons of Chase Greatness fall into a younger demographic of who they are, it's the ones who are a little bit older that probably need it more. And would you agree with that statement?
Yeah, I mean, look, absolutely. I mean, look, if I could get every business leader I know that's over 40, to read this book, I would gladly give it to them for free if they'd read it. You know what I mean? And so I think because look, at the end of the day, right? We are shepherd and challenged with raising that next generation of leader, and over the next 3 years, Lou, the majority of the workforce is going to be Gen Z, millennial, and for the first time by 2025, women will be the majority of the workforce, and they require a different type of leadership. Yeah. The traditional stodgy, top down, my way or the highway, leadership. Look, you just come in and do your effing job. That's what you get paid for, whatever. It's not going to work. Yeah. And any leader who does that is going to find that they are the blockbuster to Netflix.
Yeah, I think that's a perfect description. Well played. Let's do the admin part of the show first. We're going to have a little extended version of Fun Street here. Rajeev, share with the listeners all the places people can find you, get a copy of the book, websites, URLs. We'll put it all in the show notes, but it gets more engagement when they hear it from you.
Well, obviously, LinkedIn is a great place to find me. I'm easy to respond to everybody on LinkedIn. That's number one. I have, you can go to 1105 Media, the About section. You can always get me there. But of course, there's RajeevKapur.com, which is RajeeB as in Victor, Kapur.com, my own personal website. People reach out to me there all the time to come in and do talks and keynotes and all that, and some coaching. So if anybody needs any help with that, please feel free to reach out. I have a Twitter account. We don't do much there. Instagram is at the Rajeev Kapur, but And if someone reaches out to you and they really want to get a hold of me, then I'll give you my phone number. They can always reach out to me, and
we'll make the connection for you. We could play go between. I like it. All right. Let's go down Fun Street here, Rajeev. If you could share, actually, I want you to share if you remembered. Listeners know we give a little form to give the guests a little bit of comfort. Heads up. Share with the listeners what you shared with me was what you responded when I asked you what is your all-time favorite movie. Do you remember what you wrote?
Let's see. Did I put Pulp Fiction in there?
Well, this is what he said, folks. He said, I'm a Star Wars kid. So if you take that out, I would say Pulp Fiction or Shawshank. First of all, we can't take out Star Wars. I mean, Star Wars is like epic and classic. But yeah. Okay, so if we had which of the Star Wars movies, I'll break this in pieces. Which of the Star Wars movies do you like more?
Well, of course, Episode 4, right?
Okay, the original, the New Hope.
I was whatever. I was 10 years old. Yeah, New Hope, right?
Yep.
So that was it. And then, I remember seeing New Hope in the movie theater, and I also remember seeing the first Superman movie in the Cinerama Dome in Hollywood.
Oh, wow. With
Christopher Reeve and that music score, that was also pretty amazing. So as kids, those were pretty amazing. And look, over the last, I'm a big movie buff. I'm a huge movie. I mean, I was literally born underneath the Hollywood sign. I'm not even kidding that.
Really? Well done. I want more details. What do you mean?
Well, no. Just the hospital.
The hospital's right in Hollywood. Okay.
Yeah. And so it's not like my mom gave labor.
I was about to say she started to hike up the hill. I'm like,
no. So, look, I'm a movie buff. You can't, people would ask me, gee, hey, when you were growing up as a kid, what do you want to be when you grow up? Well, president, owner of the Lakers, and being a movie producer. Those were like my three things, right, that I always put down, right? And so, so to me, I think over the last few years, if you look at some amazing, like Top Gun Maverick this year was amazing. Obviously, that's probably that's an incredible movie. And then Parasite a couple of years ago won an Academy Award. But just so many amazing movies. The Godfather trilogy was amazing, all that stuff. So, but to me, I think the writing and the way Pulp Fiction was done and how it was all interwoven was pretty amazing, and especially when you can remember the dialogue and you can talk it with friends, it's memorable.
It's really interesting. Last night I just rewatched Reservoir Dogs, which for those who aren't Quentin Tarantino fans, you probably aren't listening to this podcast, but most notably, if you are, Reservoir Dogs was the first of his 9 movies that he made, and it's really what I love about what Quentin did with all these movies and Pulp Fiction specifically is how he brings back and forth these characters throughout the other movies and all their connectedness and weaving them in and out of the different actors and to get certain opportunities. Pretty much like if you've been in one of his movies, you're certain to be in 2 because they'll always figure out a way to roll out those over. And it's
a dark horse kind of candidate for me for an amazing that I could see up there as well is Usual Suspects.
Oh, good one. Yeah. Which is kind of not aged as well for certain reasons, but yes, Kaiser Sose, the whole concept of Kaiser is just amazing. All right, I want to do the speed round with you, Rajeev, and I'm going to throw in a bonus question in here specifically that will relate to you. But here's how it works: I'm going to ask you something. I want the first thing that comes to your mind. These are things that lift you up, motivate you, make you feel good. They basically make you thrive. Ready to roll?
Yep.
Okay. Of late, a song that you've been listening to that you really like, or one that pumps you up.
So, I went and saw Rufus Du Sol last night at the Hollywood Bowl.
Okay.
And so I'll tell you, I think he's got a song called No Place. There's no place I'd rather be. That's an amazing song. That is fantastic.
Fun concert, by the way.
That was fun. Hollywood Bowl is an amazing venue to go to. Fantastic.
I've been once a long time ago. I saw John Mayer perform there. It was pretty cool.
Yeah.
An activity you wish you did more of.
Oh, wow. First thing that came in my mind was I need to do more cardio.
Okay. An activity you wish you did less of.
Addicted to my phone. Put my phone away.
A favorite food that is not a dessert.
Pizza, hands down.
Okay. You're a California guy. Is there a certain type of pizza that you like?
Well, it's funny because my wife hates it more than anything. And so there's a pizza called Round Table Pizza out here. And I kind of grew up on that. And they have this thing called the King Arthur Supreme, which is, to me, the best pizza. So,
favorite dessert?
I don't know if I have a favorite, but I love like a real like hot melted cookie, like a chocolate chip cookie with nuts. I think I'd go with that.
An oozy cookie. I like it. All right. If I could snap my fingers, Rajeev, and you could be anywhere in the world, where are you?
Maldives.
Have you been?
Yes.
All right. Why do you like it so much?
Just quiet, amazing waters, just being around all that sea life, incredible resorts, activities. It's literally like you're on another planet. It's so beautiful. To me, it's the most beautiful place on earth.
Last question for the readers of your new book, those who get it in their hands, and they'll have a link to get a copy of the book from the podcast notes. You'll ever want to get a chance to see it on the landing page. Those that get a chance to dive in to chase greatness, what's one takeaway that you want them to get from it?
Leadership is a journey, is not a destination. And you're gonna make mistakes, and it's okay to make those mistakes. But if you just remember to practice gratitude every day, you will be successful no matter what you do.
Love it. Rajeev Kapur, he's already found it, but he's going to help everybody else chase greatness. Thanks so much for coming on Thrive Loud today. You did great. And for those who got a chance to watch the video here on YouTube, he has one of the cooler images behind him. He has a classic poster of Kobe in the Air Jordan pose with the shadow of Jordan behind him and his daughter with a little basketball below it. We miss them, don't we? But and with a heart, it was a balloon or something that he let go of, which is pretty cool.
Yeah.
Great art. Who was the artist of that? Who did that? Just
this guy in Laguna Beach. He calls himself Hunksy.
Hunksy. Okay, I see. Oh, there it is. On the left. I see.
So he's like Banksy. He's like a Banksy. He calls him Hunksy.
It's pretty great. Anyway, thank you so much for coming on and sharing your message here today.
My pleasure, Lou. Thank you so much, and thank you to the audience for listening.
You got it. And to all the listeners out there, thank you for joining us. And until next time, keep moving onward and upward. And remember, be brief, be bright, be gone.
You've been listening to Thrive Loud with your host, Lou Diamond. Check us out on the web at thriveloud.com and follow us on Instagram, LinkedIn, Twitter, and Facebook at Thrive Loud. And check us out on the Good Pods app at Thrive Loud, where you can follow, listen, and connect directly to Lou and all of the Thrive Loud episodes. Thanks for listening.